Hello, Sooo Squad and Scandalites. This is Ashley Sooo with another Old Hollywood Scandals video. This video is going to be about the very scandalous Mickey Rooney. Baby, I didn't even know he had scandals like this, but honey, he got them. Go ahead and click like and subscribe, and let's get into this scandal, because what? Child. Ninian Joseph Yule Jr. was born in the Brooklyn borough of New York City on September 23rd, 1920. He was the only child of Nellie W. Carter and Joe Yule. His mother was a former chorus girl and burlesque dancer from Kansas City, Missouri. And his father was a Scottish vaudevillian who immigrated from Glasgow to New York City when he was about 3 months old. His parents were still very much performing after he was born, and they even included him in the act. At 17 months old, they had a custom little bitty tuxedo made for the baby, and they sent him out in front of audiences so they could laugh and goo and you know everything people do with little babies, child. The fun times did not last long, however, and his parents separated in 1924. Mickey was only 4 years old, and his mother took him and they moved to Hollywood. And when they got to Hollywood, I'm not sure if his mother tried and failed to break into the movies, but I do know one thing for sure. She pushed little Mickey out into the spotlight and tried to get him into the movies ASAP. And it worked. At age 6, he made his first film appearance in a movie called Not to Be Trusted. After that, though, he just started getting a lot of bit parts, but nothing really big. So he ended up enrolling in the Hollywood Professional School, and after that, Fairfax High School. And nobody really knows how Mickey felt at this time, but his mother Nellie was determined to make her child a star. So she made sure to keep his presence seen and known around the studios so they wouldn't miss her son. Soon MGM wanted to start making a lot of teen movies, and he was the perfect guy for the role. Honestly, I shouldn't be saying role, I should say roles, because there was a ton of them. They were putting out movies back to back to back, and Mickey was pretty much starring in all of them. The films were successful not only because of Mickey, but also there was a certain teen female star that the studio was trying to push to get all the money they could out of her, and that was Judy Garland. Judy and Mickey together became teen superstars. Mickey found himself commanding $100,000 per film. And people wonder why they used Mickey so much, but it was because he played the quintessential teen boy. He played his character Andy Hardy, which is the character that was in all the movies. He had that character down pat. Like he played the anxious, nervous, girl crazy, lovesick teen boy to a T. But what people don't know is that he played the role so well because that was actually him. He was a girl crazy teenager. But baby, let me tell you one thing, he was definitely not anxious about it. Oh no, he thought he can pull any woman anywhere, and he had the money to do it. He also had a little attitude about himself. You couldn't tell him nothing. He wasn't listening to his mama. He wasn't listening to nobody. He felt like he had his money, he could pull the women, and he could do whatever he wanted to do. And that's exactly what he did when he started dating Norma Shearer. And honey, it was a scandalous thing, child. And nobody knew about it except stars, but it was still a scandalous thing even in front of them. So they was running their mouth talking about it. Nobody liked it. Because first of all, Norma Shearer was one of MGM's biggest stars. Second of all, she had just become widowed. Her husband, who was one of the heads of MGM, Irving Thalberg, had just passed away. And third of all, she was 36 years old and he was 16. I mean, what can a 16-year-old boy do for your old tail? Now, her family likes to say that this is not true. She did not mess with Mickey, but word on the old Hollywood streets says yes, she did. And you know how they know? It's because Mickey wanted them to know. In between takes of his movies, he would walk his little short tail on over there to her trailer, wouldn't even knock on the door, baby. Just go on in there and be in there for forever, doing what he had to do to please his 36-year-old woman. And people around him were telling him, stop, like this is not going to end well for you. Quit that, don't do that. And he was like, I am the biggest star around here y'all got. I do what I want to do. And if I want to go lay up with Norma Shearer, that's what I'm gonna do. But listen to how crazy this boy is. He even tried to talk like that to Louis B. Mayer. Louis B. Mayer, the head of the studio, the top, the person that started the studio from the ground up. You gonna try to talk to him like that? Baby, Louis B. Mayer grabbed him up by his collar and was like, hey, you listen to me. You're gonna do what I tell you to do. You are Andy Hardy in these movies, and you are Andy Hardy out in these streets. Get out there and act like it. Don't bring no shame on yourself, and definitely do not bring no shame on this studio. You got that? And Mickey wasn't stupid, honey, because he ain't back talking nothing. He was just like, yes, sir. Okay, you're right. And child, Louis B. Mayer thought he had done something, child. Baby, as soon as he put Mickey right back on the ground, Mickey probably ran back in that trailer with Norma and got it on again. He wasn't worried about what Louis B. Mayer was saying, but he was smart enough to agree and act like it. But baby, the thing that really gets me is that while Mickey is doing all this running around back and forth doing what he wants to do, it's one star that's standing in the shadows talking about, he a brat. I don't see why nobody like him and all this kind of stuff. But guess who the star was, child? Wallace Beery. Sir, you don't have no room to talk about anybody. Your scandalous life that you led and what you probably done to Ted Healy, boy, get out of here. So Mickey is a superstar. Like I said, he's commanding about $100,000 per film. Most sources say that he is the highest paid star for 1939, 1940, and 1941, doing big things. Eventually, he even listens to Louis B. Mayer and he breaks off his relationship with Norma Shearer. And after he breaks it off, there's this one girl just hoping and praying that she's next. She just loves Mickey Rooney and she's right in front of his face, but he doesn't see her. And that is Judy Garland. But the thing is that he did see Judy Garland. He knew she wanted to talk to him, but baby, Mickey felt like, you're not cute enough for me. I'm sorry. I date beautiful women and you are not beautiful. Now, of course, I wasn't there to see and hear this, but sources report that this is the way Mickey Rooney felt. He felt like Judy Garland just was not cute enough. And Judy Garland herself admitted that she wasn't as beautiful as the other leading ladies. And the sad part is the studio confirmed these thoughts for her, which I believe affected her later on in life, but we'll talk about that on the Judy Garland video. And if Mickey did indeed think of Judy this way, he didn't have to worry about it because he was about to be feeling the same way in just a few seconds, honey, because the teenage years don't last that long. And even when he became an adult, they did have him playing in teenage movies, but that didn't last that long either because the public back then, just like now, keep up with the age of these stars. And it might have been okay at 20 you had him playing a teenager, maybe even 21, 22 years old. But at 23 years old, the public don't want to see nobody that old playing a teenager. And the studios knew this, so they didn't make a fuss and probably even encouraged Mickey to join the military, and that's what he did. Now, stars before him had joined the military so they could become men. You know, they broke out of their little boy phase, they went to the military, they machoed up, and Mickey wanted to do the same thing. So when he got over there, he saw a little bit of active combat. He also entertained the troops, but most of all, he wanted to transform himself so he could be seen as a man. I ain't got no muscles, Lord. Anyway, besides me not having any muscles, Mickey went to the military. He stayed there for about 2 years. He comes back to Hollywood and he is ready to get those roles. But baby, he came back at the wrong time because there was no room for him. The heavyweights had come through. The true good-looking men were on the screen now. I mean, you had Marlon Brando, Gene Kelly, James Dean, William Holden, Paul Newman, and these guys were who the public was used to seeing as being a leading man. Now look at these men and look at Mickey Rooney. Boy, if you don't get your... And that's exactly what the public was saying. Now, the studios didn't necessarily toss him out like that. He did have some other movies, but he signed on to a much lower contract this time. Now he was only making about $25,000 per film. That's a huge drop from $100,000. I'm sure people were laughing and giggling because his popularity had plummeted, but honey, like I say all the time, the he was on them. Because one thing Mickey Rooney was doing, pulling them, baby. I mean, he was pulling them, the bad ones, not just no regular chicks, not even just Norma Shearer, because she was all right, but the next women he was with, baby, the other men ain't have nothing on them, you hear me? So even though he wasn't on screen in his regular life, he was doing the doggone thing. For example, now this is just an example now, he dated Lana Turner. Didn't marry her, but dated her. That is the standard of women that he will be with from now on. Y'all see that picture? Lana Turner was not anything to sneeze at the time. His first marriage was to actress Ava Gardner. See what I mean in the looks department? She was 19 and he was around 21, 22 years old. And Ava had just now moved to Hollywood. She had not even booked any serious movie roles yet. But he saw her walking around set and he had to have her. So he pursued her doggedly. Like he was always there, asking her for a date, giving her what she wanted. Always there. And this is a recurring theme in his dating life. And with Ava, I'm sure at first she was like, I think I probably can get a little bit better than you, sir. But him pursuing her paid off, and she finally gave in. And they married in January of 1942. And after the wedding, they went on their honeymoon and everything was splendid. Ava knew that she didn't have a looker for a husband, but she certainly had a very sweet guy. And that's why a week later, when she came down with appendicitis, she wasn't worried because she knew her husband would be there to take care of her. But appendicitis was very, very serious back then. So she had to spend about 3 weeks in the hospital. And I mean, it wasn't that bad because during her 3 weeks there, he did come up and see her, but she still wasn't home with her man. So when the 3 weeks finally passed by, Ava rushed to get home, honey, and she opened the door and she's like, Mickey, I missed you so. And you know why she gave that look? Because she found evidence that her sweet little Mickey had been cheating on her. But she didn't say anything yet though. Yeah, she found a little bit of evidence, but she still wasn't sure. It wasn't like the girl was there when she got there, so she kept her mouth shut. But honey, she got to that studio, and when she got there, somebody couldn't wait to get up in her ear and tell her what her husband had been doing. And that was Peter Lawford. And he let her know that while she was in that hospital, Mickey Rooney had been sleeping with a 15-year-old stripper baby. So Ava gets home, and here come Mickey trying to talk to her. And you know, Ava is like, don't say nothing. And Mickey is like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she was like, so you been sleeping with a 15-year-old girl all up and through this house? And Mickey is like, what? Where'd you get that from? Don't worry about who told it to me. Have you been sleeping with a 15-year-old girl in this house? And finally, after conversing a while longer, Mickey admits the truth. He has been cheating on her. But now he's so sorry. Please forgive him, Ava. He'll never do it again. And she does. Sis forgives him after he buys her a big diamond ring. Then, not even a week later, Mickey asks him for the ring back. You know why? Because not only is Mickey a cheater, he has a serious gambling problem. And he's lost a lot of money. Mob money. And the mob henchmen are on his head. And they have let him know if he don't get their money, it's bye-bye for Mickey Rooney. And I'm sure Ava is like, you know what? I should let him kill your little short tail. But it's cool. Go ahead, take the ring back because I love you or whatever. She gives him the ring back. He pays off the mafia debts. They're good. This right here should have been it for Mickey. He should have been good. You got your woman back. She loves you enough to save your life. This is cool. Baby, Mickey messed that up too. Not long after that, him and Ava throw a little house party, okay? They got a little gathering over at their house. Ava's just sitting there with the ladies, you know, she's on the couch, and Mickey is over in the huddle with his friends. You know how the women get together and the men get together? Okay, that's what's going on. But Ava understands she has a cheater for a husband. So she is like most women. And men, if you're listening, let me tell you, if you've already cheated or you're a known cheater, your wife or your girlfriend has eyes and ears on you. I don't care how much it seems like she's in a conversation talking. Yeah, girl. I know, honey. Ain't they crazy? That girl ain't listening to them folks. That girl is listening to what you say. So take that and run with it. Anyway, so Ava is talking to her friends, chatting and stuff, and Mickey is over in his huddle, okay? While he's over in the huddle, him and his little friends start giggling. They saying stuff like, ooh, she that bad? Dang, I bet she fine. What all did you do to her? Here go Mickey. Well, boys, you know me. You know me. I pulls them, buddy. You know what this about. And he's holding a little black book telling his friends about the women that he's sleeping with. And Ava is hearing this. And this right here, oh no, baby. She wasn't finna deal with this. She done already gave your tail a chance. But now you want to sit up here and cheat and you bragging about it in front of her? No, sir, it's over with. And she filed for a divorce. You know, the crazy part about this is Ava Gardner became a hard drinker, okay? She became a hard drinker because of this. Because of Mickey Rooney. She loved this man so much that she was so hurt by the ending of her marriage and him cheating on her that she took to drinking. Over Mickey Rooney. Okay, let's move on. But hold on, let me run it back. The reason that she probably took to drinking is because Ava could never get her feelings out. She could never tell people how she felt about what went on with Mickey. Because when she tried, Eddie Mannix, who was a Hollywood fixer who did not play, told Ava that she better keep her mouth shut about Mickey Rooney and his underdealings and everything that he does. She better shut her mouth or she was gonna be finished in Hollywood. And as you all know, movie studios at this time stayed in the personal business of their celebrities. So that's one reason the fixer came to her. The second reason is that the studio itself had been involved in the mess. The studio had set up a brothel, like a Hollywood brothel, where the girls that worked there, they were surgically enhanced to look like stars. They said there was a Clara Bow look-alike, a Jean Harlow look-alike, a Norma Shearer look-alike, and a Greta Garbo look-alike. And this brothel is one of the many places that Mickey Rooney frequented. So they were definitely not going to allow Ava to tell his business, because when the public found out about his business, the public get the searching, and then they would have found out about this studio-funded brothel. He met his next wife, Betty Jane Phillips, while he was in the military and stationed in Alabama. And Betty Jane had just won the title of Miss Alabama. Mickey comes strolling through there. He's a celebrity, and he figures Betty Jane is the best they have to offer since she's Miss Alabama. And when he comes to Betty Jane is like, yes. And so they marry. But Miss Betty Jane was not a shrinking violet. And I guess this is because she was a country girl, so she gave as good as she got. I say this because there are claims that Mickey Rooney put hands on Betty. Like they said he was jumping on a lot of his wives. She jumped on his tail back. Baby, he ain't never seen none of that country girl stuff in his life. She was ready to fight. So Betty Jane and Mickey are together and they are good. It seems as though Mickey has learned his lesson. And Betty Jane actually really loves Mickey, because you got to realize she's with him after he's out of the military. His movie roles have slowed down a lot. And he's not necessarily struggling at this time, but he's certainly not doing as well as he used to. So when he comes home and tells her, hey, Betty, I just booked a new movie role. It's a lead for the movie National Velvet. She's very excited, very happy for her husband. And Mickey is taking this role very seriously. He's spending a lot of time at the studio. He wants to make sure he gets his movie perfect. And so Betty Jane, she misses her husband. She's also pregnant at this time. So of course she wants to spend some time with her husband. So she drives to the studio, gets out the car, and she goes looking for him. So she goes to the trailer and she opens the door and she sees a dark-headed woman with her head in her husband's lap. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me rephrase that. Not a woman, a little girl. And that very beautiful little girl turns around and her violet eyes flash in the sunlight. And that is when Betty Jane recognizes that it's Elizabeth Taylor, 14 years old, with her head in Mickey Rooney's lap. Yeah. Apparently, Mickey Rooney loved his teenage girls, and the younger the better. All of this is allegedly, though. Let's move on. The thing that's crazy, though, is that if this is true, Betty Jane still tried to salvage her marriage after this, because they got married in 1944. This happened in 1944, and they ended up divorcing in 1949. So 8 days after she divorced him, she remarried. And you don't remarry within 8 days after your divorce unless you've been getting it on with that person. But Mickey ain't cared nothing about that, honey. Within that same year, he also married another woman. Her name was Martha Vickers. And although he and Martha Vickers had a son, she did not stick around long, because Mickey had started dabbling in drugs and hardcore drinking. And Martha wasn't having that child. So she divorced him after about 1.5 years of marriage. And I know y'all at this point are like, golly, this man keep getting married. How many marriages can he have? But let me tell you something. Mickey Rooney did not like to be alone, I don't think. And also he had a complex about himself. He said he made up for being short by marrying beautiful women. So he wanted to be married all the time. He wanted to show and prove that he could pull beautiful women. So when he was in a restaurant one day and a pretty aspiring actress walked by, immediately, Mickey wanted to marry her. And her name was Elaine Monken, or Elaine DeVry, depending on what source you want to use. And where Mickey messed up with Miss Elaine DeVry is that he thought she was a wholesome good girl. He couldn't have been further from the truth, honey. And when he thought he was pulling his game on her, Miss Elaine was running circles around him. First things first, she did not give in easily when he asked her to marry him. And it's not even because it was on their very first date when he proposed. She held out because she wanted to drive him crazy with chasing her, with wanting her. Kind of like Anne Boleyn did to King Henry VIII. Honey, Elaine had Mickey's nose so open that he was buying her anything that she asked for. She even made him ask her 30 times to marry him before she finally said yes. He was so excited about it that they flew to Las Vegas that same night to get married. Let me tell you just how much Elaine had enthralled Mickey. Her ex was in the mafia, okay? He owed a lot of money to the mob and he was in danger of getting whacked. Elaine actually had the nerve to come to Mickey and be like, can you give my ex this large amount of money so you can save his life, please? And the crazy thing about it is that Mickey thought about it. And this is while he himself have unpaid debts. So you're seriously considering giving somebody else some money to save their life, but you out here owing the mob too? Luckily, Mickey woke up and was like, baby, I ain't that much in love, so no, I'm not giving your ex nothing. After this, Elaine was a little cold with him, but honey, she knew she had a paycheck on her arm and she knew she had a ticket into Hollywood. So she got over that real quick. But see, what Elaine didn't account for is that Mickey was one of those type of men that would chase you and pursue you relentlessly. But baby, as soon as he had you and he had you, oh child, you wasn't no better than used goods, baby. And as soon as he had her, he started to cheat on her with an actress named Barbara Thomason. And I guess he also kind of had some contempt for Elaine as well. And it's probably because he understood that by this time she was kind of using him for his money. So he was not hiding his affair with Barbara Thomason. She was a very, very public mistress. And Mickey did not care who saw them. And just to rub it in Elaine's face, he went and bought Barbara a $4,500 fur coat and gave it to her in public so everybody can see it. And Barbara is just rubbing it in even more, honey. She just, oh, Mickey, thank you. Thank you so much for my new fur coat. And when Elaine saw and heard about this, baby, she was furious. She was embarrassed and she also felt like, where does this little man get off doing this to me? Like, sir, you went through hoops just to get me. Now you want to try to shame me by flaunting your mistress in public and you buying her this expensive stuff? You're not even making money like this, sir. You barely can afford to keep me, but you want to go out and do this for your mistress? And she got in his tail about it. And I guess Mickey, although he held her in contempt, he wasn't ready to lose her. So what he did is bought her an even more expensive coat. Woo! Child, the scandal, child, the scandal. And you want to know why it's so scandalous? Because Barbara Thomason got mad about this. So she started getting into Mickey's tail. It was like, okay, look, you need to divorce her. And Mickey is like, that's my wife. I don't want to divorce her. You need to divorce her. If you want to keep getting this, baby, you need to divorce her. She's not a good wife to you. I love you. If you love me, you're going to divorce her. And Mickey may not have really loved anybody else, but baby, he had to love Barbara Thomason because he said, yes, I'll divorce her. And when I say he loves her, I'm not just saying that because he agreed to the divorce. I'm saying that because when he did divorce her, Elaine threatened to take him to the cleaners. And Mickey still wanted the divorce. And baby, she cleaned him out. Do you hear me? She demanded $20,000 a month in alimony. This is a man that's only bringing in $25,000 a picture, if he even makes some pictures. He has a gambling habit. He has a drug and alcohol habit. He does not have money like this. When I tell y'all Mickey ain't had no money, Mickey ain't had no money. Because there was something else that allegedly happened in 1957 when he was still married to Elaine. And that is when he had a show to do in Las Vegas. He went down there and he lost $50,000. And the casino was owned by the mafia. And then this Mickey, he mad. He gets up there on stage and curses out his audience, baby. Told them clean off. Because he's mad. But baby, you cursing out the wrong person. You're doing too much. It's always somebody doing too much in these stories. And Mickey, at this point in time, you, sir, are doing too much. What you getting mad at them for? Them folks ain't told you to gamble away all your money. Get yourself together, sir. Oh, and let me tell y'all this part. It's gonna get real scandalous, baby. Because how about the mobster that owned that hotel? He took the blame for what Mickey did, for the money he lost, for him going out and cursing out the audience. And years later, that same guy and his wife were found decapitated. So, yeah, Mickey ain't had no money. But Elaine didn't care nothing about that. She's like, okay, if you want to leave me for this woman, you are going to pay. And when it was all said and done, he ended up having to pay her even more in alimony. Some people say that the amount that he ended up paying is the equivalent of $3.5 million in 2021. When people questioned Elaine about it, like, why did you ask this man for this much money? Why did you accept that? You know he ain't got it like that. That Elaine told them, hush, because living with Mickey Rooney is no bed of roses. All 6 of his wives cannot be wrong. Bloop. Baby, I guess she told y'all. So as soon as Mickey divorces Elaine, he gives Barbara Thomason her wish, and they marry in 1958. And they were good, if you can believe it. They were smooth sailing. Sources say that everything was great. Mickey even probably stopped cheating, or even if he didn't do it as much, and it was off the radar. Most people felt that he had found his perfect match in Barbara Thomason. But this is Mickey Rooney, y'all. And y'all already know by his past behavior that the honeymoon can't last forever. Y'all already know that. About 5 years in, Barbara discovers that Mickey has indeed been cheating on her. They had gone to a trip to Yugoslavia, and when they came back, she found evidence of her husband sleeping with a stripper. Boy, I tell you, that man love them strippers, don't he? Golly, Mickey. And of course, Barbara Ann Thomason was very upset. But here's the difference between Barbara and everybody else, though. She did not let her jealousies or her concerns be known. Oh, no. Sis played it dirty. Sis said, baby, I'm about to get mine too. She started an affair of her own with a Yugoslavian actor named Milos Milosevic, or Milos Milosevic. Not only did she start an affair with this man, as time progressed, she left Mickey to be with this guy. She and her children moved in with Milos. But see, what Barbara didn't account for is that Milos actually loved her. Now, she may have been playing a game to get back at Mickey, but not her new boyfriend. He wanted to marry her. But Barbara could not fight the love that she had for Mickey. And sooner or later, Mickey, her husband, became her side guy. And Milos, her side guy turned main guy, ended up being the one getting played. And Barbara didn't know this at the time, but she was playing a very, very dirty and very dangerous game. And it came back to bite her horribly. You see, all that messing around and sneaking around with Mickey made her realize that that is who she wanted to be with. She wanted to give him another chance. But when she communicated this to Milos, things turned bad. I really feel like Barbara made the mistake of thinking this was just a fling for Milos the way she felt it was for her. But he did not feel this way. He felt like she was his woman and that was his family. And so he thought of himself in the shoes of a married man that was losing his family. And he snapped. He pulled out a gun and he murdered her. And apparently he was unable to live with what he did, so the murder became a murder-suicide. Mickey was very sad and mortified by this whole thing. And he kind of wanted answers. How did this happen? Why did this happen? What really was going on in that household when she was with him? So he sought out answers from Barbara's best friend. And this lady's name was Marge Lane. And she was definitely a best friend to Barbara Thomason. As a matter of fact, the night that Barbara was murdered, she had just had dinner with Marge Lane right before that. She tried to help Mickey out the best she could. And then she started helping him a little too much, and they started messing around, and eventually they got married. Get this though, the whole thing about them being sad and, leaning on each other for comfort, it kind of don't sit well with me, because they got married the same year that his wife got killed. But maybe it was the tragedy that so-called brought them together, because as soon as their tears dropped, the marriage was over too. It only lasted for 100 days, baby. In fact, it was over so fast that later on in life, when Mickey was asked about this marriage, they're like, your marriage to Marge Lane? Here go Mickey. Lane? Marge? Yeah, I think that was her name. Didn't even remember the woman's name. After this, Mickey realized that his love life was in shambles, that he was no good at marriage, no good at dating, and he felt like something had to change. What had to change? He don't know. He had to figure it out. It was something, and finally, he got it. He knew what had to change. His wife had to be younger, and he got a 25-year-old secretary named Carolyn Hockett, and he married her in 1969. Honey, when she got with him and found out that the money he was taking care of her with only lasted for about 4 years, and after that, she kind of needed to work, or he couldn't take care of her the way she thought he should be able to take care of her. Baby, Carolyn shot them deuces and left. I mean, come on, Mickey. Why you think she was gonna get with your old tail? Surely you didn't think this woman was finna love you for you. She's 25 years old, sir. A pretty lady that can get who she wants. That girl ain't worried about you. And Carolyn proved everything that I'm saying when she filed for a divorce in 1975, and she cited financial instability as the reason. We are at 7 marriages, y'all. I didn't think anybody else that I did was going to catch up to Jerry Lee Lewis. But Mickey Rooney caught up to him, and he's about to top him because he married his 8th wife in 1978, and her name is Jan Chamberlain. And this marriage lasted until his death. And I would love to tell y'all that this marriage was all peachy and roses, but baby, that would be a lie. Y'all know Mickey doing too much Rooney is not about to have just no peaceful marriage. Baby, sources say Mickey Rooney was busting this woman all upside her head. He even was busting her head at the age of 67 years old. And there's proof of this because in 1997, Jan called the police on him and tried to charge him with battery. And the police came and picked Mickey's little tail up and hauled him to the police station. However, there was not enough evidence to formally charge him, so they let him go. But whether you believe Mickey Rooney was beating on his wife or not, there was somebody getting beat up in that home, Mickey Rooney. And they said that his wife's grown children that she had before him was beating him all upside his head. And they were verbally abusing him, and they were taking his money. Which is so weird because the guy at this point in time don't even seem like he would have any money left. With all the gambling and him not making any money, like he hadn't appeared in a serious film role for what, 50 years? Like what? Where's this money coming from? But apparently her children made off with about $2 million out of this man's bank account. And honestly, if her children were abusing him and stealing from him, that is some BS. That is awful. There's a lot of elder abuse that goes on, and that just ain't right. It is known, though, that around this time and in his later life, Mickey Rooney was extremely unhappy. When most people are enjoying themselves and they're sitting back, relaxing and retiring, this guy was worried about money, dealing with claims of abuse, and possibly just dealing with all of the stuff that happened in his life. A lot of stuff he did bring on himself, but that is still a lot for a man to think about in his older age. But Mickey was still Mickey, and he never really blamed himself for any of this stuff. He always took it out on other people, so he became a real bitter old man. And he started touring to keep his money coming in, which is sad. At this age, nobody should have to tour and perform. But he did. He needed money. So he started touring, and he was doing a one-man show. But a lot of people say that these one-man shows, all he did was get up there and gripe and complain and say bad stuff about other celebrities at the time when he was a celebrity. He would get on stage and talk bad about them, tell their business, talk about how they weren't good people, but never once mentioning what he did. He turned into a grumpy old man at the end of his life. And a lot of people did not have much good to say about him because they remembered him from his younger years. A lot of people said that he was crude, vulgar, a quarrelsome drunk, a womanizer. People kind of made fun of him in his elderly years because he was saying stuff that was off the wall. He was going around telling anybody who would listen that Walt Disney stole his name for Mickey Mouse and, you know, Mickey Mouse is copied off of him. In the end, Mickey and his wife Jan ended up getting extremely tired of each other. They disliked each other. And in 2012, they actually had a legal separation. And around this time, Mickey Rooney is 91 years old. How do you grow to dislike somebody so much that you guys separate at the age of 91 years old? That is beyond me. He disinherited all of his 8 children. He barred them from seeing him in his elderly years. He didn't even want to have anything to do with them. He didn't want to see them. I guess he felt like they had failed him, but it was probably he that failed them. He died kind of broke and alone on April the 6th, 2014 at the age of 93. And it is said that there was not even enough money in his account to cover his funeral expenses. Major studios in Hollywood, out of respect for him because he was a legend, paid for his funeral. And the total tally of money, assets, and everything else that he owned was only $18,000. And this is a man with 342 acting credits under his belt. Y'all, it's just sad, really. This has been the old Hollywood scandalous tale of the life of Mickey Rooney. So you guys go ahead and like, share, and subscribe and comment. Tell me what you think, and I will see you soon. Bye.